ओम सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। Hari Om, salutations to all. So in the 13th lesson, we saw about sadhanas, different sadhanas to purify the mind. And then we also saw about vichar, how vichar is also a sadhana where one thinks and the mind turns introverted. Today we take up lesson 14, and this lesson is about the 6 steps to liberation, having purified the mind. So 2 important aspects are chitta shuddhi and chitta ekagrata. Purity of mind and single pointedness of the mind. Chitta shuddhi is purity of mind, and chitta ekagrata is single pointedness of the mind. These 2 qualities are extremely important to be able to contemplate steadily and realize the self. Impurities are kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. These 6 impurities are called mala. So the sadhanas given earlier are to help us to remove these 6 impurities. And vikshepa means wandering of the mind. So when the 6 impurities go, the mind is called shuddha, chitta shuddhi, that is called. And when the wandering of the mind stops, mind becomes focused, single pointed, then that is called chitta ekagrata. So these 2 are very, very important aspects of how one prepares oneself for the Vedantic sadhana. Now, in today's chapter, we will see about that aspect. These 6 aspects, they answer the question, Katham Vimoksha. So we saw Ko Nama Bandha, what is bondage? Katham Esha Agata, what is the cause? Then Katham Pratishtha, how is it sustained? Now Katham Vimoksha, how to become free from this? So in Katham Vimoksha, one part is purity of mind and single pointedness of mind, Chitta Shuddhi, Chitta Ekagrata, which we have to cultivate. The second part is then, having cultivated that, what should one do so that this Jiva Bhav goes? So Vivek Chudamani beautifully describes these 2 verses, 69 and 70, the 6 steps for liberation. Mokshasya hetu prathamo nigadyate vairagyamatyantam vastushu tatashamaschapi tiksha nyasa prasaktakhila karmanam bhrisham tatashrutistan mananam satatva dhyanam chiram nitya nirantaram munehe tato vikalpam parametya vidvan ihaiva nirvana sukham samrichhati. So mokshasya hetuhu, the cause for moksha, meaning the steps towards moksha. Prathamo nigadyate vairagyam, atyantam vairagyam, tremendous amount of vairagya towards anitya vastushu, towards these ephemeral objects in the world. First step is vairagya. Tata means afterwards. After vairagya, what? Shamas chapi damas titiksha. Then Shama, Dama, Titiksha, meaning all the six. Prasakta khila karmanam vrisham nyasaha. And also one should drop, which is uparama, withdrawal from action. So Dama, Shama, Titiksha, Uparama, which means all the six qualifications. Having cultivated these two, one must go to the Guru and Shrutihi. Shruti means to listen. So one must listen from a Guru. Tata Shrutihi. Then reflect on it. Mananam. Tan Mananam. Satatva Dhyanam Chiram Nirantaram. Nitya Nirantaram. Then continuous dhyan for a long period of time, consistently. That is Nididhyasan actually. So Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan. Then Tato Avikalpam Parametya. Then a person transcends thought, realizes pure awareness. Vidwan Ihaiva Nirvana Sukham Samrichati. That Vidwan will experience here itself the state of realization. So now these are the 6 steps given here. Vairagya, Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti, Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan and Samadhi. Each one let us see now. So first is Vairagya. So we have seen Vairagya in detail before. So here it is just mentioned so that one remembers that all those sadhanas which one did earlier must actually give that Chitta Shuddhi, Chitta Ekagrata, which will bring that Vairagya in the heart. It is not meant only for a feel-good factor. Many people do the sadhanas for feel-good factor. I am doing japa, I am a believer of God, I did Tirtha Yatra. One feels satisfied, okay, I have done. Which is okay, which is one part, but it should give Vairagya. It should bring that intense longing for the Lord. So what is Vairagya? When we saw Vairagya earlier, we had seen Iha Amutra Falabhogeshu Viraga, Icha Rahityam. Here and hereafter, no craving for sense pleasures here and hereafter. So that is what is here. To be mentally detached from the cravings for the finite things. Meaning, it is not suppressing the desires. It is that through Vivek. So when they say Vairagya here, Vivek is implied because without Vivek, Vairagya cannot come. So through Vivek, when one has done proper Nitya, Anitya, Vastu Vivek, that this is all ephemeral, the happiness that I seek is permanent. And no matter what I do, that permanent happiness is not what I am getting. A sense of incompleteness remains, lack of fulfillment is there. So while there is some pleasure, no doubt, in sense objects, but a person who is who has developed that keen sense of observation and introspection feels that this is not satisfying enough. My demand is for permanent happiness. So that absence of craving for anything which is finite, because one knows it is not going to fulfill me. 2 signs of Vairagya are given here. One is that craving, absence of craving by understanding the ephemeral nature of the world. And second, intense longing for the Lord, or for the infinite. Both these are 2 sides of the same coin. The more the cravings reduce, the more the longing will increase. And the vice versa. The more we long for the Lord, the craving for sense pleasures will be much lesser and it will get destroyed. So now what is given here is how to cultivate this Vairagya is by constantly thinking that no matter how much I acquire, I possess, I aggrandize, I enjoy, permanent happiness and deep fulfillment and satisfaction is not possible. It can bring some short-lived temporary pleasure, some enjoyment. But even there, what happens? Law of diminishing return works. The first Rasgulla I eat, very happy. Second, less. Third, much less. By the time I hit 8th or 9th, it is a pain. So goes to show that the object by itself doesn't have happiness at all. It is our projection on it. One, maximum it can give some tickling of the senses. That is very, very short-lived. And there also it will destroy my senses and energies. That which I can use to realize the infinite by conserving the energy, now it is getting dissipated. Person who has seen this very, very clearly, what will that person do? Will learn to withdraw from these sense objects. Mentally, one will drop the craving. So one sign of Vairagya is brooding over sense objects doesn't happen. Otherwise the mind broods. Let me see this movie, let me eat that food, let me go to that place, let me enjoy in this way. The mind broods. Person-wise Vairagya doesn't brood at all. We, as children, know they brood about toys. If they see something very nice in a TV, they will brood about that, they will think about that, they will fantasize about that. As elders, we don't brood about any of those toys. No craving at all. Same way here. What are the things which my mind broods about? Those are the things where one seeks pleasure. A seeker must introspect on those. Does that really have pleasure? Does that really have happiness? Pleasure it may have. What is the price I'm paying for that? Senses are getting worn out, vasanas are increasing, extrovertedness increasing, enjoyment is temporary, there is a lot of fear of losing it or not getting next time. All the six, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, they will come. Vikshepa will come. So chitta shuddhi, chitta ekagrata are directly opposite of this brooding. Brooding will bring all the impurities and wandering. Sadhana will remove all these. So where am I channelizing my energies? So a seeker thinks, these are the things. Whether it is some food item, whether it is some whatever, television serial or some addiction to some movie or anything, spending time in talking or phone or any such thing, where the craving is there, where one cannot find happiness within. See, this doesn't mean don't enjoy the world outside, but no craving. That state is Vairagya. So one makes a list. These are the things which are my attachments. And I need to overcome this attachment by constantly thinking what is said here. That is a Pratipaksha Bhavana. So when one does that, then one understands that even if one craving reduces, so much energy is released in the mind. And most important is these attachments to sense pleasure, they keep us bound in the cycle of vasana, chinta and karma. If you remember that vasana, chinta, karma, that cycle which is there, a person will keep on worrying and brooding over sense pleasures, which will make the person restless. Then that person will act. When one gets something that is not going to satisfy, again it will leave a vasana. So this cycle will go on. So instead of vasana pressure reducing and me turning within, vasana pressure keeps on increasing when one does not have Vairagya. Hence the first step for liberation is there must be this intense Vairagya. And for that, what should be done? Again and again, Pratipaksha Bhavana. The imperfect nature of the world, ephemeral nature of the world. In general, everything is anyway passing, is very temporary. But in specific also, the objects of my attachment, I must constantly think the negative effect of it on myself, especially my spiritual seeking. Otherwise, the mind will justify it's okay, it's normal, anybody will do it. But a seeker is not anybody. Seeker has thought through, seen life closely, is wanting a greater happiness, wanting to experience permanent truth, absolute peace. So now, if I want that, then this is the method. So Now, having said that, so that is the first step, that is Vairagya. Now, one important point to understand here is the mind which has done these sadhanas will have that strength to hold on to Vairagya also. What happens many times is Vairagya comes, but it doesn't stay. Why it doesn't stay? Because mind is not yet pure. When we go to camp, when we go and do some vrata, one feels also very good. One feels extremely sattvic. One's inner strength increases. Vairagya also has grown. But slowly, this kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, again they come back. So that Vairagya which was there, one couldn't sustain. Which is why this is important that sadhana continues to be done. See, please remember, this doesn't mean that, okay, if Vairagya, these 6 steps which are mentioned, that means earlier sadhanas I don't need to do. They have to go hand in hand. Proportion may change depending on what is one's level of evolution, but sadhanas must be done. Then the mind becomes purer and purer, and the ability to retain the mind in that higher level of awareness, that Vairagya, that comes only through this continuous sadhana. And the more Vairagya comes, the sadhana will become deeper, the japa will become deep, yajna will become deep, vrata will become deep, all that. So now Vairagya is the first step. Because if I don't have Vairagya, what will happen? Even if I sit to contemplate Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham, gone. In 2 seconds, the mind will just run out. It cannot stay. How much subtlety is required? Just think about to contemplate on nameless, formless, attributeless, infinite, pure consciousness. So much more subtlety is required. To retain a gross object in the mind, let us say a picture, one blue light, one circle of blue light. If I want to hold the picture, the circle of blue light in my mind, that itself takes such a long time. It doesn't come when we do this meditation session. So many people come back to us and say, Swamiji, that blue light circle, white light circle, not coming. Even if one is able to see for a short time, it doesn't retain. Again, it goes. Now imagine a form and color that we cannot retain. How will we retain that state of mind which is full of Vairagya, which is to think about Brahman, pure consciousness, Satchidananda Swarup. So that's why this is important, that if my contemplation has to be steady, Vairagya is the first step. Now Vairagya is sustained by, earlier I said sadhanas, now here it is also the 6-fold qualities. They both mean the same thing. The sadhanas help us to practice the 6-fold qualities. Shama, control of the senses. Shama is control of the mind. Dhamma, control of the senses. Then Uparama, withdrawal of the senses. Titiksha, forbearance. Shraddha, faith. Samadhan is quietening the mind. Absorption of the mind. All these 6, what will they do? They will strengthen Vairagya. And when Vairagya becomes more and more stronger, then Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasana can be done. So Vairagya can be strengthened through sadhana, which is a practical application of these 6 Samadhi Shatka Sampatti. We have done this Samadhi Shatka Sampatti before, so I will not go into the detail of it. All of us know it well. With such a mind which has Vairagya, which has Samadhi Shatka Sampatti, what should one do? Many people become happy with this only. Little bit of quietude of the mind happens, one feels so happy. That's a means. Quietude of the mind is only the means. Control of the senses is only the means. What is to be achieved after that is Brahma Jnana. So one has to go to the Guru. Now go to the Guru, that also we have seen Guru Upasatti. Then what to do going to the Guru? Listen first. Shruti, Shravanam. Now what is this Shravanam? Shravanam is not merely hearing, it is listening. Listening with full attention. Listening with complete focus, single pointedness. And listen to what? Listen to the Mahavakyas. Or Vedant basically. It doesn't mean only listen to one Mahavakya Tattvamasi. Listen to Vedant and understand how I am Brahman. I am not this body, mind, intellect. So listening is with one's full being. How to improve one's own listening? There is a very nice talk of one Mr. Julian on TED. You can watch the talk. If possible, I will put the link. Mr. Julian. Simple, very nice, simple exercises he will give of how to improve one's listening, which is in our day-to-day life, which we can do. And the sadhanas which one has done will anyway remove the obstacles to listening, which is all these 6 impurities, wandering of the mind. So one has to listen with full alertness. In fact, Vedanta says that if one listens with a prepared mind, with complete alertness, realization is then and there. The great adhikaris of the Upanishads, they realized the truth then and there. They didn't have to go back and reflect or do anything. Mind is ready, there is realization, instant. So Shravanam. So now what is the Shravanam? So in Vedanta, Swami Sadananda defines Shravanam as Shravanam to Tatparya Avadharanam. I am giving you in brief. It is to determine the essence. Ki what is the essence of the entire Vedantic knowledge? Is that Jiva is Brahman. Jiva is not this individuality. Jiva is actually one with Brahman. Jiva Brahma Aikya is the main teaching of Vedanta. Advait Vedanta, I mean. So a person who has determined that very, very clearly, listening to the scriptural teachings from the Guru, especially Vedanta, one has determined that this is what is the main essence. If somebody says Chitta Shuddhi is the main essence, or quietude of the mind is main essence, or doing the duty is main essence, they have not done proper Shravanam. Like after reading the Gita, one is asked, what is the main teaching of the Gita? If somebody says that doing the duty, accepting life as it comes, overcoming likes and dislikes, doing actions without insistence on result, if one says these are the main teachings, then one has not done the study of the Gita properly. These are the secondary teachings. Main teaching is you are Brahman. Gita is a Moksha Shastra. So in the same way, here when one is studying, listening to the Vedanta, what is the main teaching of Vedanta? That is called Tatparya Avadharanam, to determine what is the essence. And the essence of Vedanta is Jiva Brahma Aikya. One part is determining the essence, other part is the conviction that by following the sadhanas of Vedanta, I will realize the truth. That conviction also comes through Shravanam. So when we keep listening, there are some people who are called professional listeners. They will keep listening. This person, that person, this talk, that talk, everywhere they will go. But did you determine what is the essence of Vedanta? Who are you? If I've determined the essence of Vedanta, then my listening is proper. Otherwise, I'm just listening. It is not bringing any result. So Shravanam, Shravanam to Tatparya Avadharanam. I should determine what is the essence. Any book I read, any lecture I hear, any movie I see, any conversation I have, one should know how to determine the essence. This is how it is. This is the essence of it. Then one has done the Shravanam properly. So that is first aspect. The main Jnana Sadhana. This is called Jnana Sadhana. Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasana is called Jnana Sadhana. So when one has cultivated Vairagya, one has Samadhi Shatka Sampatti, one goes to the Guru and then one listens to the teacher. Now if the mind is ready for this, that person will realize the truth here and now. If the mind is not ready, the person may have doubts. Now, how can I be Brahman? I am born, I have this body, the world is so real, I am born into this world. How can I be this Brahman, infinite consciousness? Lots of doubts. If there are no doubts, either it means that the person has not done Shravanam properly, or that person is enlightened, or the person is a fool. Somebody who heard very attentively will definitely have doubt. How can I be Brahman? First of all, the notion of I only will not be clear. So as one keeps listening, the doubts will keep coming. Because what all we believe is destroyed by Vedanta. So many fundamental flaws and assumptions we have in our own thinking. Vedanta will destroy all of them. So when we come across that knowledge, it has to shake us up. If it doesn't shake me up, it doesn't bring doubts, that means I have not heard properly or I don't know the depth of it properly yet. So now what is Mananam? So Mananam has to bring me the intellectual conviction by removing the doubts. The result of Shravanam is determining the essence. The result of Mananam is intellectual conviction. How will intellectual conviction come? Today we are intellectually convinced I am this body, mind, intellect. World is real. Now that has to go. So by constant reflection and thinking and removal of doubts, this intellectual conviction comes. One thing we should remember is we live not by our knowledge, we live by our convictions. Knowledge can be anything here, but what I am convinced of, I will live like that only. So many people know that smoking is harmful. Nowadays they write smoking kills. Knowledge is there, but no conviction. So one just smokes. So in the same way, information may be there, I am Brahman, okay, but conviction is not there intellectually. Until intellectual conviction doesn't come, one cannot live it in daily life and the experience will not transform. Now one more important point here is, so knowledge must transform into conviction. The knowledge transforms into conviction through reflection. That is called Mananam. Knowledge plus reflection equal to conviction. Clear, doubtless knowledge, that is called conviction. Intellectual conviction. Now, one very important point is, many people think that they have intellectual conviction. That is called an appearance of conviction, not a real conviction. Because if it's a real conviction, then the thought process will change. Because the thought process is affected by what is my conviction. Like a person who is convinced that cigarette smoking is harmful and it will kill me, fantasizing about the cigarette will stop, seeking cigarette will stop. If somebody offers also, one will be able to say no. That behavior transformation happens. But if one says that I'm intellectually convinced, but I'm not able to apply, that only means that intellectual conviction is not strong enough, and second, mind is not pure enough. Then that is the reason why the application doesn't happen. So it's not the flaw of knowledge, it's the flaw of knowledge not being transformed into conviction. Now the fire, suppose we touch fire. First time I didn't know, I touched fire. Now it burnt my hand. Now I know, intellectually also I'm convinced that this fire is harmful. Now I'll never put the hand in fire. Because that conviction makes me live according to that. So knowledge must transform into conviction. And that knowledge transforms into conviction by proper reflection. That reflection cannot be anyhow. So here the definition is given. Same Vedanta, Swami Sadanandji says, Mananam tu Shrutasya Advitiya Vastunaha Vedantanu Yuktibhihi Anuchintanam. A very beautiful definition. What does it say? Whatever is heard, Shrutasya, about what? Advitiya Vastunaha. About the non-dual Brahman, what I have heard from the teacher, Vedanta Anuguna, according to the science of Vedanta, Yukti Bihi, using the logic given in the Vedantic books, Anuchintanam, continuous thinking. So meaning my reflection must be based on the logic given in Vedanta. It cannot be any logic, because logic is, one can prove and disprove both using logic. Logic has severe limitations. But it is used here to transform the information into conviction. So specific types of logic will be helpful. Like what we have, Drik Drishya Vivek, the seer and the seen are different. Jada Chetan Vivek, Atma is Chetan, everything else is Jada. Like that. When we understand that logic given by the scriptures properly, then what happens? We can think on it continuously again and again. Then this information which I have will transform into my conviction that yes, world is illusion, body included in that, body, mind, intellect, but the I is changeless. That doesn't change at all. That aham, pure aham, I am, that is infinite. That will never become absent. So it is Sat, it is Chit, it is Anand, all that we saw earlier, Sachidananda Swarup, Panchakoshatita San, Avasthatraya Sakshi. Those things one will start reflecting on, and one will understand that this is me, pure consciousness, I am not the equipment at all. Reflection will bring that clarity. And that Anuchintanam, again and again one has to reflect on that. If this Anuchintanam does not happen, the problem is Anuchintanam. We listen in the class and then we go, and then sometimes randomly we may think about it. In Vedanta they said. And sometimes one may mug up the answer for the sake of exam also, to write the correct answer in the exam, to get the proper mark. But one is not thinking about it through the other times. That what is Vedanta trying to tell us? This whole thing that I am seeing, every single moment what I am seeing is an illusion. Which means how do I live this life? Constantly I have to tell my mind, this is false, this is false, this is false. Including this, not only what is outside, including this BMI. And what is the truth? I am pure consciousness. So I have to assert every moment that. How that will happen? Anuchintanam. Constantly one has to reflect. So 24 hours one cannot reflect. One has to do work and other things. But Anuchintanam means at least a specific time in the day one can set aside for reflection. And through the day when one has some opportunity, reflect. While eating food, one thought can easily pass through the mind saying that this is an illusion. The food is illusion, the eater is illusion, the eating is illusion. What is real? The Sakshi of all this is real. Over. It's a thought. While eating, it can come. While walking, one thought can come. As much as we can, that's what I mean. Through the mundane activities or through a specific time, one can reflect. Because if anuchintanam doesn't happen, conviction will not happen. Years of, I may study for years, many books on Vedanta, one after the other. But the bhav still remains, I am Jiva only. Because anuchintanam has not happened. So even when one is meditating, one is wondering now what to meditate on. And hence it is that anuchintanam has to be done. Now anuchintanam, how to do? So two aspects are there in this. One is one's own reflection, which we just spoke about. Using scriptural logic, one has to think about it, that why the scripture is saying certain things. In this, what helps is think on the topic from the standpoint of a non-believer. If you see Gurudev, how he will talk. Any topic that you give him, especially spiritual topics, he will think from a non-believer standpoint, that what kind of objection a non-believer will have. And all those questions which a non-believer will have, if we are able to answer clearly, that means we are having clarity. So one is to think like that. Swamiji, for that we have to know what the non-believer thinks. See, the point is non-believer thinking, meaning to think from a perspective which is not conditioned. So we play the devil's advocate, that's what it means. Suppose Vedanta says that happiness is not in the world outside, happiness is your nature. Now ask questions of a non-believer who wants to oppose this principle. What all questions will that person ask? How do you say happiness is not outside? When we enjoy the sense object, happiness we get or not. So how do you say it is not outside? Like that, questions will come. Body is seen, Atma is not seen. How do you say Atma even exists? And how is it that Atma is me? Basic, these questions they will have. So when we start thinking, so one is anuchintanam happens in two stages. One is individual reflection, second is group reflection, which is why Gurudev started the study group, that we must have discussion with like-minded people or seekers, basically. Seekers, or once my conviction becomes more stronger, I can even have a discussion with non-believers. Then it will be a test, proper test of my own conviction. But till I don't get proper clarity, little more time is required, then I can go to them. So group discussion is what Gurudev told us, study group. That study group method helps the person to see different perspectives, because different people, when they are discussing, they will bring out different perspectives. So that clears one's own doubts, which one may not even know by oneself. By self-reflection, the doubt may not even come. But in the group, somebody else has the doubt, then one also starts thinking, oh yes, this angle we didn't think. So now that is called mananam, in individual capacity as well as in a group, study group. So weekly once, Gurudev started this study group, gave us a scheme of study, and we have to read what is there and then discuss. It is not a lecture class. It is to discuss. So on each paragraph, one reads, one reflects, one brings out one's own views, any questions, contrary thoughts. Then that knowledge becomes stronger. And systematically, Vedantic knowledge, when I study, which is why the system is important. Suddenly one takes up Gita, Upanishad and reads, it will not help. One will not know the depth. In fact, one may get confused. So then what should be done? Basics onwards. Tattva Bodh, Atma Bodh, Bhaj Govindam, Upadeshar, Sadhana Panchakam. One goes like that. The whole scheme of study Gurudev has given. Kindle Life, Bhaj Govindam, Atma Bodh. It goes like that. So one should study systematically, reflect in the group, then this will give intellectual conviction. The result of intellectual conviction will be automatically the mind is so clear that one wants to turn introvert and one wants to do nididhyasana, contemplation. Why? Because the conviction is I am Brahman, I am not this BMI. So why will I even want to engage in the world outside so much? I want to experience that Brahman. But now there is one problem is, I may have intellectual conviction, but experience is still I am a jiva because of the habitual error, which is called viparita bhavana of so many past lives. I have lived as the body, so I still feel I am this body, I am this jiva. It is definitely better than earlier stage where intellectual conviction was not there. Today, intellectual conviction is there. So to that extent, craving is less. To that extent, the identification with the BMI is less. Jiva Bhava has become less, but it is still there. Earlier, Jiva Bhava was the main thing. Brahma was not even there, not even aware of it. Now I am aware, now I am convinced that I am that Brahman. Now one has to contemplate. That is called Nididhyasana. Why this Nididhyasana has to be done? Because the Jiva Vasana has to be replaced with Brahma Vasana. Otherwise, the information which has transformed into conviction will not translate into final experience. So that is called as Dhyan or Nididhyasan. Now this Nididhyasan will help me to remove Jiva Bhav, and because of Jiva Bhav I have Karta Bhav, Bhokta Bhav, Karma I do, Karma Phala Sakti I have. All this is caused because of not knowing I am Brahman. So these have to be removed. How this will be removed? Only when I constantly do contemplation. Contemplation means 2 steps. Like Mananam is 2, contemplation is 2. Negate who I am not and assert who I am. So when we do that, this negation of who I am not is to be done because constantly one feels I am this. No matter how much information one has, the bhav is still I am jiva bhav. So negation has to happen. I am not this, I am not this, I am not this. And then who am I? Pure consciousness. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. What will this do? This will destroy the root cause, which is ignorance of the self. I don't know who am I. That ignorance this will remove. So the example given here is that till I don't do this, the root cause is not removed. So it is like cutting a plant from the top. If I just cut some leaves or some stem, I don't cut from the root. That root is there, it is strengthening the whole plant. Again the leaves will grow. Which is why many times when we meditate, we become quiet. Upasana we do. Japa, etc. will lead to quietude of the mind. But Jiva Bhav did not go. Until Jiva Bhav does not go, Trupti, Paramanand will not happen. Again this Jiva Bhav will, so the mind was quiet because of Japa, and after some time again it will come back. Again Jiva Bhav will be there. Again I will start running behind the world. So what has to be done? More and more time one has to spend in contemplation. After Mananam comes Nididhyasana, where I destroy the root cause. Root cause is I don't know who am I. That goes by knowledge. Knowledge arises through Nididhyasana. Through steady contemplation, Brahma Vasana is generated, and that Brahma Vasana will destroy Jiva Vasana. No, then Swamiji, what will happen to Jiva Brahma Vasana? It will destroy by itself. No. How can we understand that part? That's what the Samadhi Avastha it will come to. So that I will take in the next part. But this Nididhyasana we have to understand in this way. So what is the Definition given here. Vijatiya dehadi pratyaya rahita advitiya vastu sajatiya pratyaya pravaha nididhyasanam. So this is nididhyasana. All the contrary thoughts, vijatiya, those are which are not same species of thoughts, which are not connected to this Brahman, they are connected to the BMI. So they are vijatiya. What are they? Dehadi pratyaya rahita. The thoughts which are not connected to the body, which are connected to the self, advitiya vastu sajatiya pratyaya. Meaning the thoughts of negating who I am not and the thought of asserting who I am constantly, that is called nididhyasanam. So constantly I have to do both negation, assertion, negation, assertion. For quite some time this has to happen. Why? Because the purpose is to destroy this jiva bhav, the false identification. And remember one thing, that whatever I send in the quiet mind will transform me from the depth. In psychology, they use it for hypnosis. When the mind becomes quiet, then one auto suggestion is put inside it and it will go deep and transform the subconscious. I'm not saying this is to transform subconscious. This is to transcend mind itself. But just to understand the methodology, that how does it work in a quiet mind, which has vairagya, which has shatka sampatti, which has done listening, which has enough conviction, that mind, when it contemplates steadily that I am not the BMI, I am pure consciousness. And because the mind is ready, one lifts the mind to that state. One doesn't repeat it as a mechanical process. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. No. That state which is indicated by those words, Chidananda Rupa, what is Chit, what is Anand, what is Shiva, what is Brahman, those things one lifts the mind. I am that pure consciousness which is enlivening the BMI, which is the substratum of the whole world. Remember what all we have studied earlier, all has to be applied here now. We learned about Brahman in two ways, now, enlivener of the BMI, Sakshi of the BMI, and the substratum of the whole world. So those things I have to use now in Nididhyasana. And what to do with that? All the Anatma Vasana will get destroyed. Even few moments of quiet contemplation will destroy lots and lots of Deha Vasanas. And so that is the objective. So the mind must be lifted to that state again and again. It may wander, it may not remain in that state. After some time again it goes out. One has to do that again and again. In the Gita, Bhagavan says that yato yato nischarati manas chanchalam asthiram tatastato niyam yaitad atmanyeva vasham nayet. Bring it back to Atma, meaning bring it back to the pointers of Brahman, pure consciousness. If at all we find that very difficult for some reason, then what should I do? Come back to japa. Start doing japa. And once we feel that the mind is better, again come back to nididhyasana. So this steady practice has to happen. This material also tells us about how this vasana got created. The Dehatma Vasana got created because of the thinking of so many lives. Like the example given here is of the smoking habit. First time one smokes, there is no habit at that time. One is smoking out of curiosity. Then one likes it, then one repeats. So by repetition, now that samskar. So first time one smoked, the impression that is created in the mind is called samskar. And by continuous repetition, what has happened? It has become a vasana. A samskar is not compelling, a vasana is compelling. Samskar is just an impression, it will just go away. But vasana is compelling. So over millions of lives, we have cultivated this Dehatma Bhav, that I am Mr. So-and-so, I am the Jiva, I am finite, I am limited, I am born in the world is real. All this I have created. Then how this will go suddenly? That's why long time For a long time, nididhyasana needs to be done. That I am Brahman, I am not this jiva. That which is created by repetition has to be removed also by repetition. So when a person is ready, what will happen? This steady contemplation of I am Brahman, along with that preparation of the mind, and when the mind is lifted to that state, person will go into samadhi avastha. That is the sixth step, samadhi. What is this samadhi? Many people think samadhi means some trance, or not eating food for a long time, not drinking water, being in a, one particular pose. Different things about samadhi one thinks. Sometimes it is equated with death also. Bhu samadhi, jal samadhi, person has died, samadhi. But literally, what is the meaning of samadhi? Samadhi literally means adhana. Adhana means to place. Dadhati means to place. To place the mind in Brahman. Meaning what? Through this whole practice of Shravan, of sadhanas, then Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti, Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan, the mind becomes thinner and thinner and thinner. Jivbha becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. Ultimately, it gets absorbed in Brahman. Mind loses its existence. That separation which is there, the feeling of I am different from this world and God, that difference just disappears. Because the difference exists only as long as mind exists. In deep sleep, mind is not there, so we don't see the difference. Again, same in samadhi, the mind is not there. Mind disappears. Only awareness remains. So it is not a state of blank. It is not a state of thoughtlessness, because thoughtlessness is a state of mind only. Jiva bhav is still there, only that the jiva is not thinking anything. When jiva bhav has gone, disappeared, no mind, no jiva bhav, no intellect, that entity, psychological entity, is dissolved. Subtle body dissolved. That is samadhi. But it is not completely dissolved, because the vasana pressure is still there, causal body is still there. So again the person comes out of that samadhi. Again with abhyas one goes in. This repeatedly when one does, so many vasanas of countless lives, they will start getting destroyed. All the karmas accumulated of the past, they will start getting destroyed. More and more that mind becomes quieter, more and more the mind becomes absorbed. Ultimately that mind gets fully fixated, meaning that entity is fully disappeared, gone. Brahman alone remains. That is called Sahaj Samadhi. Details of this Samadhi will come ahead also. So I will not take more details now. The Sapta Jnana Bhumikas, that will come. So there we will take more details. But here suffice to say right now is this much, that using the thought I am Brahman, all the other thoughts are removed. Just like the example given here is of the sleep. I want to sleep, I want to sleep, I want to sleep, removes all other thoughts. And that intensity of wanting ensures that nothing disturbs, only sleep I want, and the withdrawal has happened. And then finally one gets sucked into sleep. That thought I want sleep also just drops. That state is indicated by Shankaracharya by the word Param Avikalpam, meaning beyond all thoughts, only the state of awareness. Also called as Aparoksha Anubhuti. Direct experience that I am Brahman. Now again you will say, who is this I if I got dissolved? See, there's the limitation of language. This I is not small I. This I is the real I. Real I becoming aware of itself is realization. Real I feeling that I am not this real I, but I am this small jiva, that is bondage. So realization is of the I, that I alone am as pure consciousness. There is only one Brahman, nothing else exists. That is a state. So Param Avikalpam. And that person who has realized this truth, That person is called as Jivan Mukta. While living here itself, that person has experienced the truth. Remember, this is the person who has got firm establishment, who is the Jivan Mukta, not a person who is still practicing Samadhi Abhyas. For a long time, one has to practice Samadhi Abhyas. That's why the words given there are, you see, in the first shloka, what is given here? Chiram, continuously, Nityam, for a long time, unbroken, Nirantaram, Satatva, constant. 4 words are given: constant, unbroken, continuous, for a long time. This one has to do, this practice of Samadhi Abhyas, then will destroy ignorance once and for all. That state is called the final state of realization. Yad gatva na nivartante. Having established in that self, that is called self-abidance. All this practice was to remove all the obstacles. Mala, Vikshepa, Avarana, 3 obstacles. So Mala removes by sadhana, Chitta Shuddhi, Karma Yoga, all those. Then Japa, etc. will remove Vikshepa. So Chitta Ekagrata. And Shravan, Mana, Nididhyasan, all this will help to do Chitta Atikraman, which is transcending the mind, abiding in the self. That is called self-abidance. Atmanishtha, that's the word, Atmanishtha. Not going, coming. That is still sadhana time. But when that person is established in that, that ignorance is gone, one is free from this bondage of samsara, that person is called Jivan Mukta. Why is called Jivan Mukta? Jivan Eva Mukta. While living here itself, that person is freed from the false notion that I am this Jiva. So Jivan Mukta. Now, how does the Jivan Mukta live? Those things will come ahead. That the person lives here in this world, blessing the whole universe. Their presence is enough to inspire people. They don't even have to talk. They live wherever they live, known to people or unknown to people. But they bless the whole universe. And it is such people who are the proof also of what the scripture is saying is true. If realized masters were not there, you think about it, if Jivan Mukti as a concept is not there, how will we know what the scripture is saying is true? If realization happens only after death, how is it possible to know what the scripture is saying is true? So many great masters at different points in time, in different areas of the world, when they have experienced the truth, they have said the same thing. And that's because they are alive, they have experienced, they express it to all. So that is called Jivan Mukti. It's again a very unique aspect of Vedanta. No other philosophy will tell about Jivan Mukti. Even in Vedanta, the Dvaita Vedanta and Vishishtadvaita Vedanta will not speak. Jivan Mukti is only Advaita Vedanta. That while living here and now, how a person realizes the absolute self. So now, that person, how will he, what is the motive for that person to live? Fulfillment of lives and lives of seeking is done now. That person lives only sharing knowledge, love, peace, happiness with all. Personally, there's no entity inside, there's nothing to achieve, it's over. Story over. But then the body is still living, so the body will go on. And what will that person do? Spread love, peace, happiness, knowledge to all people who come, all the creatures who come. So these are the 6 steps here. And this chapter ends with this beautiful example, which is given here, which is the example of the seeds. So knowledge is that which helps a person to liberate. But again, if the knowledge is, if the purity of mind is not there, the knowledge will not arise. So the example given for that is that when a person takes some seeds, and these seeds, the farmer is out to scatter the seeds. So what happens? Some fall on the path, so the birds eat them up. Some fall on the rocks. There is not enough soil there. They don't grow. Some fall in a place where there is little soil and they grow, but the roots are not strong enough. They have not take proper depth. There's not enough water, and the plant gets, that sapling gets burnt. Some are born and put in some thorns and they get stuck there. Very few are those which fall on the soil, proper soil, and then they will germinate and they will give rise to much more products, many more crops and many more seeds and all that. Again, that depends on the fertility. Some grow 100 times, some grow 30 times, some grow 20 times. It depends on the fertility. So what does it mean here? The person who is throwing the seeds is the guru. What are the seeds? The seed is the knowledge of Vedanta. And what is the fertile soil? That is our own mind. So purity of mind is required for the seeds of knowledge to germinate, and then for that knowledge to bring forth the fruit of realization. And then the juice of that fruit is bhakti. This we have added extra, it is not here. Based on Tulsi Ramayana. Beautifully Tulsidas ji says that bhakti is the juice of the fruit of moksha. Is para bhakti I am talking about. So these are 6 steps of realization. And then there are some more verses for reflection. This is from Atmabodh. Evam nirantar abhyasta brahmaivasmiti vasana harati avidya vikshepan roga niva rasayanam. So in Atmabodh, Shankaracharya ji gives this example that by constant abhyas, nirantar abhyasta, what will happen? This abhyas is of nididhyasan. When constantly one does nididhyasan, then brahmaiva asmiti vasana. I am jiva is the vasana cultivated by habit, by identifying with the BMI. I am Brahman is again cultivated by sustained contemplation. What will this do? Harati avidya vikshepan. This vasana that I am Brahman will destroy avidya. Roganiva rasayanam. Like the medicine destroys the disease, the germs. And by itself it will get absorbed in the system. So aham brahmasmi will destroy aham jivaha, and then by itself it will also subside. And one is in that pure state of awareness. So through nididhyasan to samadhi, that is this shloka. Then he says the next 2 are from Panchadashi. Manaso nigrihitasya lila bhogo alpakopi yaha tameva labdha vistaram klishtatvad bahumanyate. What does it say here? The person who has conquered the mind will be satisfied with even a little bit of pleasure. There's no craving in the mind of that person. Why? Because he knows that this is all temporary. Klishtatvad bahumanyate. And what will happen? How much ever one enjoys, it will be less only. So the mind will always remain in the state of craving. So one knows that very, very well, that this will be followed by grief. Klishtatvat bahu manyate. So what will that person do? You will little pleasure here and there, whatever comes unasked, one is not bothered about it at all, one just lives. So this is to say the state of vairagya. That one who has proper conviction, that person will not crave for sense pleasure. Through the daily transactions, whatever so suppose one has to eat some food, one gets some nice food, one eats, one leaves. One is not sitting and craving today what will come, who will give, what food will be there, nothing, no craving. If there is no taste in it also, they will not bother. We have combinations to eat. So if idli is there, there should be chutney or sambar. If you just give him idli, they will just eat idli. No chutney, no sambar. They will not even crave for it. No combinations. I'm not saying we should not seek combinations. All I'm saying is there is no craving. Sometimes we will feel incomplete. Oh, with this is not there. Idli sambar, and after that filter coffee. Super combination. Now, filter coffee is not there, then feels incomplete. These people don't feel incomplete for anything. Some of them though don't even have that any basic sense pleasure, also enjoyment they will not have. Where what to talk about any craving. So this is a state of vairagya who has conquered the mind. Manaso nigrihitasya lila bhogo akal alpa kopiyaha is little pleasure also. Then the next one. This is about realization. Anubhuter abhavopi brahmasmi teva chintyatam. Api asat prapyate dhyanat na natyaptam brahma kim punaha. Nityaptam brahma kim punaha. By constantly thinking, even if I have not realized Brahman, I should constantly think I am Brahman. Why? Because by constantly thinking this world is real is how I've got attached. If by constantly thinking this world is real, I have become so attached to unreal things, then why will I not attain that real by constantly thinking that I am Brahman? Meaning this is to tell us that nididhyasana must be done consciously, it must be done regularly, then one will come to realize the truth. So that is where chapter 14 concludes. There is which page is Sadanandji's verse? It is there on this page number 7. No? Page number 5 is the verse on Mananam, and page number 7 is the verse on Nididhyasanam. So any questions on this? If anybody has, you can unmute yourself and you can ask a question. Okay, so no questions. I will show you one video, which is a very nice video about reflection. How Gurudev speaks about reflection.
एतद्बुद्धा बुद्धिमान् स्यात् कृतकृत्यश्च भारत कृतकृत्यश्च भारत.
Iti, das means in the last.
The sound is there. I have shared the computer sound.
19 verse says, Guhyatamam. Guhya, secret. Guhyatara, more secret. Guhyatama, most secret. Comparative and superlative. So, Guhyatama, the highest secret. Idam, Shastram, idam, uktam. Shastram, science. This highest secret science of reality. Idam uktam, I have already told you. Maya, by me, hey Anakha. Oh, attentive student who is bringing all his mind in single-pointed attention. Etad buddha, having understood what I said so far intellectually. Buddhiman syad, may you become a buddhiman, a wise man. It is unnecessary repetition, isn't it? Having known this, may you be a wise man. Hey. It's because you come from the office ready to fight with anybody, including your wife. Because that is the only place where you can really fight. In any other place, they may give you back. Here there is nothing. It's a Hindu wife. and nothing there in the house that I can quarrel with. Everything spick and span, spit and polished, everything. I am choking to bring out my repressions and suppressions in my office and in the marketplace, the disappointments and dejections, the insults that I received and the unjustifiable kicks that I got in life. I want to pour it out, but there's no chance. And as soon as I sat down on the table, the tea came. If it is late, I can howl. You did not know that I am coming here. Why didn't you prepare? She is preparing the tea in the kitchen. And if she had brought the tea, that is sufficient. If she is well dressed, why are you dressed up like that? If you are not dressed up, can't you not at least take a bath and drink a... Don't you know that I am coming? Look like a devil? Somewhere. So she knows it by her experience of last 20 years. So she selected the youngest child. Baby, go and give it to Papa. Now, you can't howl at him because he will not understand. You will just look at him. Observing and watching the ugliness on your face. He won't understand. And if you are talking too long for him, he will suck his thumb. He will not understand. So it's useless. You kept it there. You lifted the cup and seen whether it is spilt. Then that is to do. No, it is not spilt. You looked at all the sides of the cup, it is all clean. Anyway, you lifted it. Very disappointing, because he has not been able to give. The moment the tea touched your lips, got a chance. You kept that cup there and started howling at the wife. Can't you not give me some sugar? Am I not the earning member? Am I not feeding you every time? Can't you not give me some sugar? Maybe in your house, your parents have taught you how to drink without sugar. In my house, it is not so. From childhood onwards, we have been taking sugar. Went on and on and on, and she always allows you to go on. Why? It is a relief for you. At the end of it, when you are silent, she says, I have put sugar in it. That is sufficient. Another wave of, you have put sugar, as if I don't know the taste of sugar. Maybe you don't know the taste of sugar, because in your house you never got to taste. It's only after coming to my house that you have taken a lot of it. She allows you. So in the two waves, half of, or more than half of the suppressions have gone. Then he said, she from the kitchen howls out, the spoon is in the saucer. Spoon is in the saucer. As if I can't see it. And you take the spoon, and you can't hold the spoon like that. So you do what the spoon should do. So clockwise 3 times, anti-clockwise 4 times, and then sideways and lengthwise. All the time you are howling at her that you can't put sugar on top of that sugar, and then lifted the cup. There is param shanti, utter peace, complete silence, total satisfaction. It is at that time, if that woman is really a Hindu woman, she will cry out from the kitchen, you want more sugar? If anybody asks her, you can understand, it's a Hindu woman, ready to serve the husband. When utter silence has come, you know that you have put the sugar. It is nothing. They will ask the question. Now here it is. The sugar was in the cup, and yet there was no taste, because it was not shaken. It's only on shaking that the sugar dissolves and goes between every molecule of the water, liquid in it, that it is on the top, middle and the bottom of the same texture of sweetness, and there is total satisfaction. And then, into the cup of your head, 15 chapters of the Gita has been put there. Yet your life is as bitter, no sweetness at all. Why? It has not been shaken. That shaking is done by the spoon of the mind. In the intellect you have got all the ideas, but it doesn't add sweetness to your thoughts, your ideas, your concepts, your vision, your imagination. No. It's all selfish at this moment. Shake it. Shake it with the mind, clockwise and anti-clockwise. That is called a reflection. You have to independently think about it. That is why I insisted that you must write the 3 gunas. Have you written? Is it here with you or in the room? It is here. No. Why? When you thus make you to think for yourself and discover the ideas, it becomes sweeter. I mean, it becomes dissolved. The knowledge that has been put therein dissolves and so adds a new glow to every thought that rises in your mind, and these thoughts expressed out in the world outside is called your actions. So the etat buddhva, having known this, meaning put into your cup, in your head, buddhiman syad. May you become sweetened in your intellectual thoughts by shaking it. Kritakrityascha bharata, and come to experience in life kritakrityata, a sense of having done what is to be done.
So that was the clip about reflection. So we continue more in our next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om.